Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I'd like to start with our regular prayer from Father Ron Walters.
I hate to say it, Jim, but I do not have that.
Let me do it.
Pat may have. Pat, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just give me a second.
Father Walters can't be here this evening. He's traveling. So we're having to use a recording that he's made for us.
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and the beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Walters. We really do appreciate it. If you have not done so, I ask you to go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe to it. That way you'll get all of the information you need to log in each Wednesday to our shows and find out information about who's going to be on and what we're doing. So I encourage you to do that. I do want to mention one thing. We're going to start a new segment once a month on young modeling. And I found an individual that I think is really going to add something to our shows. And his name is Ethan Bernstein. Ethan's an in-scale modeler. He's going to start these in September. And we're going to try to schedule him once a month. Ethan is a young guy. He's still in college. And we're going to have to try to figure a way to work around his schedule. So some months he may not be able to do it simply because of his schedule. But to the extent that he can, I think he's going to bring an awful lot of information to our shows about the youth in model railroading today, what they're looking for, what they're doing, the kind of things that maybe we as older model railroaders can do to help them along their way. So I'm really looking forward to Ethan's participation. All of the build-alongs that we do on the show are on our website, which is another reason to go to our website, because you'll be able to find out the manufacturers, the amount of the discounts that they're offering on the kits for the build-alongs, and when the build-alongs are going to be starting, and who is the person who's going to actually do the building on our show. We have one that we're announcing tonight, that Walthers company is the manufacturer. And you'll hear a little bit more about that from Gary Shurgold, MMR, who's going to be doing the building of this model on our show. We also have another My Build coming up on the 23rd of August. And Chris Course is the host for our My Builds. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Chris must be there.
Chris must have stepped away for a little bit. I'll try to come back to him, but the My Build is scheduled for the 23rd of August. It's a scene where we're trying to emphasize harvest because of the month. And we hope that you'll participate in it. The information that you need to send, the photos and so forth, Chris will put that in the chat function, his email address. And if you'll simply send it to him, then he'll make sure that you get into the My Build program and can show your models and talk about it. We're really happy about the number of people that are starting to participate in that program, because it helps everybody to understand what other people are building and can see maybe some tips that they can use to improve their modeling. Our next modeling lifestyle is coming up on August the 3rd, and it features a great modeler, John Weigel. And I think we have a short video that we'd like to show.
Join the modeling lifestyle at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on August 3rd, where we will feature the modeling lifestyle of John Weigel. John and his friends will discuss why and how ON30 has become a focus of many modelers. Join Jim Kello, John and his friends as they discuss how modeling has been a major part of John's life.
And John's going to have 4 people with him on that show that I think you'll really enjoy meeting. John is, he's just a fantastic guy. I'm really impressed with him. So I hope that hope you have time to tune in that Thursday night. Keep in mind that the only way that you can visit and participate live is on our YouTube channel. We don't do it on the Zoom. But if you can't join us live, which we hope you can, but if you can't, then you can always watch a video of it later on. And that again is at 7 p.m. the 3rd of August, Eastern Time. Well, with that said, let's start the show. And I'd like to start off with Bob Davidson for his dollar store treasures. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. And we'll share screen and get this going. So welcome to Dollar Store Treasures, where I let you know some of the great finds that I found at the local shop. And the store that I've been going to is called Dollar Tree. And now, of course, everything is $1.25. And now I see this week, now they have their premium aisle where you can spend $2, $3, or $5 too. But everything tonight is still $1.25. So tonight we're back in the craft aisle to begin with. And I found this, and it's a clear craft glue. And it's just like one of those Eileen glues, or what is it? I've got, yeah, Eileen's, that you find at, like Michael's or Joann's. It works great on fabric, and it is really good with cardstock or any papers. I have not tried it, excuse me, on any plastic product or other material, but it does work fine both on fabric and on paper. So for $1.25, I think it's a quarter of what I paid over at the Hobby Lobby or wherever I got it. This is something, I don't know why it was in the craft aisle, but it was. A lot of times I use a cutting mat for a lot of stuff. But here's a small one, which is great. It's almost, like say a throwaway, but 8 by 6 inches, you can see it is accurate. I checked it against the scale rule. And for $1.25, like you can just afford to use it while you're building something and then throw it out. So again, real savings there on a nice cutting mat. It's a good weight. Nothing wrong with it. Third item, and this wasn't there till this past week. They have a whole bunch of rocks and different stone pebbles, different sizes, all kinds. This happens to be something that would work good for, an HO scale for large scale outcroppings of rocks. And again, fairly almost, well, almost a pound and a half bag for $1.25. You know, the problem with getting the big bags over at Home Depot or Lowe's is that you use up a little bit of it and then you got 20 pounds of it that you don't know what to do with. So for $1.25, you know, and they have different colors, different sizes, different finishes. So it's just something to look at. And again, it's down in the craft aisle. So switching over to the hardware aisle this week. They had these cute little things. There's a lot of times where I need to just I'm working over by the layout or something. I don't have the glue. So I bought a couple of these little cards. You get 4 little containers of the original, it says, super glue. You get 4 of these little things, you use it once and toss it out. So again, for $1.25, you get something that you can use quite a bit. So there's 4 items. That was my $5 that I spent this week. And those are our dollar store treasures for this week. So if there's not any questions, I'll throw it back to Jim.
I love the cutting mat. This means that I may now be able to not have to use one for 2 years in a row.
I know they get, you know, you drip glue on them or something like that, and then all of a sudden they got bumps in them and everything. So like I say, for my scale, that 8x6 is just a great size, and you know, you can buy 4 of them for $5.
Not too bad at all. Thanks so
Not too
much.
shabby. Thank you, Jim.
I do want to mention one other thing here before we go on with the show. I hope that you'll pay attention to our August 30th show. It's going to be really special. We're going to have the winner of our scholarship contest on the show. And we're going to have some other people who know him and can tell us a little bit about him. And it'll give you an opportunity to meet the young man and get to know him a little bit. So I'm really pleased about it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's August the 30th. It'll be the first segment on that show, so it'll start a little bit after 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you can't do another show in August, that's one you ought to set aside to make sure that you see, because we're awfully proud of our scholarship for the first year, and very proud of the individual that ended up being the winner of it. So if you can join us, we sure would appreciate it. With that said, I need to turn now to Gary Shurgold, MMR, who's going to be doing the BuildAlong for Walthers Company, their Cornerstone company store kit of 2 models. Now, Walthers has really gone overboard, I think, and trying to help us and promote this. They're giving 30% off the price of this kit. Like I say, there's 2 structures to the kit, so you get 2 of the houses, and you get 30% off of it. You have to buy the kit between August the 1st and September the 23rd. And when you go to their closeout to pay the bill, the code that you have to insert is NTRACS, capital N, all of it in caps, NTRACKS, NTRACS. And that is the checkout code in order to get the 30% discount for these 2 kits. And some of you may have seen Gary's work in the past. This is the first time we've done plastic kits on the show. And the reason we're doing it is because when Gary's through with building these, they look like they're wood kits with some kind of a stone or a concrete foundation. And when you look at them, you won't be able to tell that they were ever plastic. So Gary, let me turn it over to you to talk about it a little bit.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, the company houses come in a 2-pack, and the footprint of the buildings is 6 7/16 long by 2 13/16 wide, and they only stand 3 3/4 inches high. They're very nice kits, beautifully detailed. They come with curtains and blinds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the like when plastic kits come, they're molded plastic with some detail, but I'm going to show you how to make the plastic wood sides look like real wood and all the trim look like real wood. And I'll show you how to color and weather the wood. And then the roofing material that I used, it's a tar paper roof. I'm going to show you a method of doing a simple tar paper roof using a different style of material. Some of the tools you'll need is you're going to need a razor saw, which is a major component. I'm pretty sure all modelers have a razor saw. So you'll need that plus knives. When we start the program, I have a list of tools that I will show that will be needed for the project. So hopefully there will be a number of people that'll try this method. It can be used on any plastic kit that you want to make look like wood, not just buildings. It can be used on railroad cars. It can be used on anything, decking or whatever. And it comes out pretty good. I was very pleased with the first one that I attempted. That would be about it for now, Jim.
That's great. Now this starts on our show September the 6th. And Gary will be doing it on 4 shows over the course of about a month. And it's done that way so that you can see exactly what he's done, what it takes to do it, how to do it. And then you'll have a week to catch up with him and before he shows you something else that he wants to do. So we hope that you'll be interested in doing this because, as I say, Walthers has been awfully nice to both give the 30% discount off the kits, as well as giving the door prize for one of the kits this evening. So we'll be announcing the winner of the door prize later in the show. You have to be present to win. So if you leave and you happen to win it, you don't really get it. So you have to.
Jim, we have one question in the chat. Are the houses only an HO scale or do they come in other scales? I think from what I saw, I thought it was only HO, but just wanted to check and make sure.
You're right, it's HO scale.
Okay, only HO. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That was the question. Thanks.
Yeah. So with that said, unless there are any other questions, Gary, thank you so much for doing this. I think everybody's going to really be impressed if they haven't seen you do this before. The way this comes out, I promise you, you'll swear it's real wood that you're looking at, not a plastic kit. So if you're interested in it, it'll start. This show will start on the 6th of September. Now to see the next thing that Gary's going to wow you with, he's going to show you how he built a machine shop. And he's going to start doing that next week. So I hope you'll tune in and watch him build his scratch-built machine shop. So Gary, thank you so much for being here this evening.
You're very welcome, Jim. Thank you.
Well, with that said, I want to turn to Tom Farrell. Tom has been on the show before, naturally, but Tom is scratch building his layout. So tonight we see the next phase of that scratch building. Tom, welcome.
Thank you again for having me. I appreciate being on the show, and I hope I can help it make it continuing to be interesting for everybody. Let me just jump right in here. Everybody see that, hear that? Hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great. So this evening, I'm going to continue the building of my concrete dam. And then I'm going to retrofit an old scratch build that I wasn't pleased with. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. So first, this was featured last week, scratch building the concrete dam for the Salt Creek River scene on my new rustic buff and old Gothic railroad. Phil, one of our support people here on New Tracks, noticed that I had sort of a technical error on this, on my dam. If you notice to the center of the dam here, that's the spillway. So when the water in the theoretical lake behind overflows, it goes down the spillway. The problem is that it would also go down the left and right of the dam. So that was a good call by Phil. So I retrofitted the dam to make it more or less technically correct. I added to the left and right of the dam, I added basically just two quote concrete walls, abutments to extend the height of that. And there they are up close. I just used 1/4 inch basswood, which will look like cast concrete when I'm done, or as you'll see. And then behind the dam, rather than having just a hole, I added this wing and I painted it green, and then I hit it with Mod Podge several times so that when you peer at the dam, you'll see what appears to be water. So there's the dam test fit in place. See this early picture of the Mod Podge back there is still wet, but this has the wing walls here, and then it has these additions. So in the event that the water actually spills over the spillway, it doesn't go down the left and right of the dam. So again, thank you, Phil. That was a good catch. Next, I placed the dam onto the layout. I used this fast grab tack glue. So I applied it on all surfaces because I'm going to be pouring Envirotex or Woodland Scenics epoxy, and I obviously don't want any leaks. So I want to try and seal. The dam's actually going to have to do its job and keep the epoxy from rolling to the back of the layout. So here's the glue, of course. There it is in place. Next up was to finish the Sculptamold. So I put in some foam here, just some scrap pieces. And then with my putty knife, I just started putting in the Sculptamold. So I had it all in place. So this will be like a rock face here. This will be a rock face. And this will be some kind of scenery. Jim asked, where exactly is this dam on the last show? I hope this clears it up. The covered bridge goes across this span and on these two abutments. And so you won't really see this, but I had to put something there. You will see it if you look at it from the left side, but it's just part of the deal, just to make it correct. So it's here I just used Woodland Scenics, they're green. These are just base colors. I will go ahead and paint this up with acrylics, have the appearance of a little depth in the middle and some shallowness to the shoreline, but you've got to make a nice base colors to make those epoxies come off well. I did pause the construction of this scene because I'm going to add a couple of boats, and I want the boats placed on the base here, on top of the sculptor mold. I'll pour the epoxies out around the boats. I ordered some resin kits from a company called Frenchman River Model Works. They've got a whole bunch of resin kits, just seems to be their specialty. They have HO, S, O scale, and 1/24. And also they have, many of you remember Thomas York was on our New Tracks modeling for several shows, coming out of retirement to do a kit. This is the company that picked up 35 or 36 of his kits. They're all O scale, but I mentioned he's sort of a quasi celebrity in our hobby. These kits are just absolutely world class. Even if you're not in O scale, I urge you to go to Frenchman River Model Works and look at some of Tom York's work. He's just a real artist. Okay, now I have a freight depot that I made about 2 years ago, and I never placed it on my old layout. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the way it came out. It's scratch built. It just doesn't, it's just not a handsome looking model. Maybe it's just me, but it's the roof line is what I think the problem is. I just don't like the way it came out. And I've had this happen to me before where I've put all this time into a scratch build and I simply don't like it when I'm all done. So I had this brainstorm to resurrect this scratch build, get it off the shelf, put it on my new layout, put a little work into it. I mean, this is a very crude drawing. I don't normally draw anything up, but the idea is I'm going to put an extension off of this, change that roof line, and put in some sort of support. This is going to function as a freight depot that exchanges standard O scale to my narrow gauge railroad. So this is an interchange, is the idea. So what I did is I took a piece of plywood, everything I build's on plywood, and I super glued this plywood end on end to the model. And I'm going to put in a wooden deck floor. So I took these are craft sticks from Hobby Lobby. They're very inexpensive. You can see the graining here. I took a razor saw on the raw wood, and I grained the wood, and then using 3 or 4 different alcohol washes, I stained them all different colors. There's dark brown, there's blue gray, there's grayish, and then I cut them up into 8-foot sections, 4-foot sections, and 2-foot sections. And then I began super gluing them down. Well, first I super glued the track down. Then I put a spacer, a piece of plywood in here to bring this center section up to the same level as these ties. And then I began randomly gluing these quote flooring boards onto the base of this, onto the track and onto this plywood. This is about as far as I got. And I will build a structure out around this. So there'll be a full scale O scale freight car on the standard gauge line, and then there'll be a narrow gauge box car on the other. And the idea is this is the end of the line for the rustic, buff, and old Gothic up above. When I operate my layout in a point-to-point fashion, this is the last stop on the railroad, and it switches to standard gauge is the concept. And there'll be a steam locomotive here and a freight car in standard gauge. There'll be static displays. There's just up close. When I want to show this photo because see all this fuzz. I just want to make a note that when I'm all finished with putting this planking in place, I will take one of these butane barbecue fire starters, and I'll just flick it on and burn off all this fuzz. And no, you don't burn your house down. It's just You just flick it on and off, it just burns the fuzz right off. Just a little side note, yeah, little tip. This is where it's going to be located. As you'll see, to the left is the shanty town. To the right is this. This is only about a foot wide here. So this is the narrow gauge ON30 here. There'll be 2 turnouts that'll be controlled by the Barrett Hills touch toggles. And this is the standard gauge track here. So to the left, you can see there's a little bit of shanty town. This is going to be the freight depot interchange. So this is the narrow gauge here. These will be stub ends. They'll end right here. And here's the standard gauge. It's going to end in a tunnel. Finally going to find some use for this urethane. I bought this probably 20 years ago, but I'll paint this black in here so you don't see anything. And this will all look like wood when I'm done, but this will be an interesting little scene. So the standard gauge goes off into the sunset. The narrow gauge ends in a stub right here. There's the shanty town to the left. Again, I stopped working on it because the next step is to put those boats that I purchased, and I've got to wait for them to come in, and I'll feature those in the build. And so I little sidetracked here. I'm working. I'll finish this structure, put in this track. So I'm just hopping around back and forth here, as we do in the hobby. That's all I have for you this evening. Yep. Any comments?
Anybody have any questions for Tom?
Yeah, Tom, I think the station looks fabulous.
Oh, you like it? I don't know. I just didn't like it. I guess, maybe I should have got a second opinion, but I'm gonna go ahead with this retrofit. I think it'll improve it anyway. Yep.
How'd you find this company, Fisherman's Models? How'd you find them? I never heard of them.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it either. On Facebook, I'm not sure of the page. It might have been the ON30 page from Al Judy. There's a fellow that's been featuring dockside structures and a dockside scene that he's doing. I saw that he had a couple boats on there, fishing boats. And I said, hey, where'd you get, did you scratch build those fishing boats? Because I was prepared to scratch build a couple boats. And he said, no, I got them from Frenchman River Model Works. And I had never heard of that. And like I said, I went on there and they were just beautiful kits, resin kits. And then he's the guy carrying the Tom York stuff, which is like carrying the Mona Lisa,
Yeah, Jim, the boats I showed and that barge, the car barge, are all from Frenchman River. They make really nice resin kits.
Yours were ON30 or O scale?
O scale, but the barge actually is ON30, so it's because the rails molded in ON30. Yeah, I can show some pictures of it at some point, but yeah, they're very nice kits. They finish very well. Absolutely.
I urge all of you to take a look at that site, Frenchman River Model Works. And he covers almost all the scales, HOS, O scale, and 1/24th. And just gaze at the Tom York. There's 35 of his kits on there. They're just beautiful. Yeah.
I'll give him a call. Would somebody like to do the build along? If I can get him to do a build along?
I don't know the guy at all. But,
well, that's fine. I'll call him up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
else? Yep.
If somebody wants to do the build along, let me know, and I'll call him up and see if I can arrange a build along for him on the show.
I'll be showing how I'm making that one of his boats, fishing boats. So,
okay.
Tom, can I make a suggestion on your building?
Yes.
Try a higher pitched roof or even a mansard roof and maybe a couple of dormers. That will change that building 300%.
Okay, I put dormers on other buildings and that's a good idea. Yeah, and what else? You said a Manson roof, yeah. Okay. Yes. And thank you, Phil, for correcting my dam. Yeah. All right, thank you again for having me, everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing it. Well, listen, I understand Chris Courts now is back. So Chris, you want to talk about the upcoming My Build a little bit on the 23rd of August?
Sure, Jim. Just had to take the dog out. He was wanting to go. And the weird thing is I was calling him back and the deer in the back were responding and not the dog. So, all right, these are times we live in, I guess. All right. The My Build August challenge is harvest. It'll be on August 23rd. So whatever you've got that's harvest related, please share. Doesn't have to be like super tight, but if you can find some way to tie it a little bit into harvest, we'll gladly show it. But if you've got like farm equipment, grain elevators, hopper cars, mills, tractors, agricultural items, barns, chicken coops, cattle cars, reefers, even food related billboard cars, please share them with us, and we'll put that on for the August challenge. So to participate, email me your photos to railrunner130@hotmail.com, and we'll be sure to get those in there. So, and also, please, the sooner the better. It kind of jams us up if we get stuff Tuesday and Wednesday. It does not make things fun to deal with, because then I'm in a mad panic getting everything all ready. So anyway, I'll give it back to you, Jim.
Fantastic. So you finally got the barge kit finished. Is it on the market yet, or are you still?
No,
planning?
not yet. I've still got to cut the kits. It'll probably be another week or two, and then I've got to finish writing instructions, and that's going to be. I think I lost some hair on the last kit, but so I got to do that. I got to write up the instructions yet. Yeah, I'm aiming for September, October timeframe for it. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Well, now I want to turn to Phil Edholm for our local clubs and NMRA division segment that we do. Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Well, everyone, I do a little slight change of plans tonight. Originally, my intent was to focus tonight on the convention we're doing out here in California in 2024. But I actually had something show up that I thought was really interesting, and it's really maybe more from a club perspective, but I think there's an interesting question about would something like this work for divisions, et cetera. So what I saw was an email that came out about asking me if I would be willing to send out an email about an event. And they were coming up in our local area. 3 clubs in our area were having a visit from the company called Scale Trains, which is an HO and an S company. So those of you who know Scale probably haven't heard of them, but they're a company that manufactures a number of new products in this space. So got this invite, got this info and said, hey, can you publish this? Put it out into our groups.io. So I ended up going and looking at their website. And what I found was very interesting is that Scale Trains does a road trip. And what they do is they try to align with shows that are going on and put clubs on a list to visit them. That's how they used to do it. But this year, they actually, if you read the text here, they've actually bought a motorhome and they're literally driving around the country and doing a road trip. And so you can apply as a club and they will invite and come to your club, and they come for the evening. And basically what they do is they come in and they show you the models they have, etc. They have some gift bags and giveaways, etc. And probably, I don't know if you schedule it around something to eat in the evening or anything. These are the ones they have scheduled. And And these are all the places that they've been in the past. So I thought this was a really interesting thing that obviously a whole bunch of people are aware of. What I wanted to do was kind of stop that share. And what I'd like to do is share a video. This is actually their video of kind of about their visits and shows.
Hi, I'm Shane with Scale Trains, and welcome to the Scale Trains road trip. So one of the questions we have as we travel is, well, what exactly happens at a meet and greet? So a lot of fun things happen. Of course, we set up a display of all of our latest products, and also there's tons of things that we're giving away. You'll get a gift bag when you come that has some goodies from us, including an exclusive road trip pin you can only get in the bag. We have some other goodies from our partners, folks like White River, which is Railroad Model Craftsman, and others. And then also we do things like giveaways of Scale Trains pins and rivet counter pins, and we encourage everybody to pick up all the models on display. Now, the first thing we do when we get to a meet and greet, and after everybody gets settled in, is we lock all the doors to make sure nobody leaves until they buy something. No, really, it's not a Scale Trains infomercial. What we do is we tell our story, how we got started. I'll tell you, it's nothing short of a miracle. It's amazing how we've been blessed. And then we do a couple of neat things. We'll take a behind the scenes look at the product development process, part of the research, the CAD design, and then of course the tooling. And then we go back to our factory and we actually take a look at the manufacturing process, from molding to painting to printing and final assembly, and a ton of other little tidbits as well. And then we, of course, encourage questions, right? Throughout the presentation, if folks want to learn more about some of the things that we're talking about. And most people save their questions till the end, and we'll have like a Q&A session. So if there's anything you've ever wanted to ask a model train manufacturer, here's a great opportunity. Well, as we travel across the country, make sure that you take a look at the road trip webpage, as well as our Facebook group, to stay abreast of the latest places that we're visiting. We'd love to have you come and join us, and we look forward to meeting you on the road.
So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I thought I'd kind of throw it open. Is this something that other vendors should be thinking about? Is it, comments from other folks? Any thoughts? Has anyone been to one of these? Are they effective? It's an interesting thing about how do you get a product out to people to look at it, to buy it beyond the internet. Does this seem like a reasonably effective way? Obviously, if you're a club, you got the links there. I'll put the links up in the chat. For going to them, you can go and request a presentation there. Since I think the majority of clubs are HO clubs, I think that fits in very well on the club side. One of my questions is, how can NMRA divisions potentially become more integrated, and having vendors do reach outs like this, because it may be a very effective way of reaching out with your products. Anyway, any thoughts from anyone? Or
There was the Philly division had me come do a talk about a year and change ago, and then at Amherst they asked me to basically give it again. So I've done it. I enjoy doing it, but I kind of feel like my problem is I need to make it more interactive for myself.
Yeah.
But
and clearly, I think they're a more volume manufacturer.
Oh, yeah.
Too. I think I guess that's one of the questions is for the volume guys like a Bachman or, those kind of guys. Because, one of the challenges, I think most modelers never actually see, other, the manufacturers. If you're not where you can go to a train show or to a convention or something like that, you probably don't get to see a lot of people. So the idea of actually going out on the road and being able to go to a number of places seems to me to be a very interesting business thought process. So anyway, it's kind of a twofold this week. I mean, one side is for clubs, and I think it's commission. I'm going to basically ping them and see, if they can do something like where we're going to do a divisional event and invite them to come to the divisional event and use it as a promotion for the event and an opportunity for them. So that maybe becomes an extension. The question is what kind of attendance they're looking for, et cetera. So anyway, and then secondly, I thought for other vendors to think about, how they're doing that. Could that be integrated with, are there other opportunities to do that more outreach to the community? Anyway, with that, I'll throw it back to you, Jim.
I don't know about other people, but I personally think it's a great idea. It's, the thing that impresses me about it is you're not just talking about selling product. You're talking about the process that goes into actually producing that product and what's involved, and helping the modeler understand, it's kind of like the food, where the food comes from, and so he gets to see the research, he gets to see the manufacturing processes and so forth that's involved in it. And I think that's valuable because, we all, we see the finished product, but we have no idea most times what it took to get there.
Well, and I think it's very interesting because I think it looks like a lot of their manufacturing may be onshored. So that would be an interesting question. I would be interested in understanding when he basically was talking about the factory and that. So that would be fairly interesting.
I think it would be too, and because he is, they produce an awful lot of different products. I mean, no question about it. I mean, they're always coming out, it seems like, with something new. So finding out about companies and like a Bachman, for example, or an Atlas, or any larger company, having that personal touch, I really think is great. But at the same time, not my decision to make.
Cool.
Thanks so
I
much.
will throw it back to you. Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else have any questions or comments about this before we go on? Okay. Well, now I want to turn to Steve Sherrill. And he has a special guest tonight that I'll let him introduce. But Steve has started this segment. What do you want to talk about? So Steve, what do you want to talk about?
Tonight, I think we're going to talk about something that's relatively new to the hobby. 3D printing. It's been around for a little bit, a few years, I think, but now, of course, the new printers are getting much cheaper and much better as far as the production of the detailed models they're turning out. I have been very fortunate to have a friend, Bob Gelmacher, who is into 3D printing. He's got three machines, I believe, and he lives pretty close by. And he is really a wonderful modeler, has a great looking layout, and he has made some special cars and things that I can use on my railroad. So with that, I'm going to show some of the 3D models that I have on my railroad just to show you the different varieties that are produced. So let me switch because I got to get up again. Every one of these cars is different. You can see some of them are engines, cabooses, passenger cars, third trucks for geared locomotives, hopper cars. I think I have about 12 or 14 varieties here that are all different. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob, who will give you some more explanation on how the machines operate, the designing some of the products, and just a general overview of 3D printing. So Bob, if you go ahead, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. And I'll correct you in one regard, Steve. I actually have about 7 of those machines right now, so, and a couple more on order, but I really enjoy 3D printing. As it turns out for me, my model railroading has taken a couple of turns, and one of them was with making a lot of trees. So I spent a number of years doing that. And then I got into 3D printing. And once I got into it, I realized that I could probably make a lot of my own rolling stock. And then once I had a chance to meet Steve and talk with him, he gave me a lot of great ideas about things that could be used in the hobby that maybe hadn't been produced yet. I was going to say what I'm going to show you now for a little bit later, but I only have about 9 minutes left on this print that I was going to show. So I'm going to send it and point my camera right to my 3D printer. So hold on. And this particular printer is one of 4 that I have like it. It's called a Prusa. And basically it operates by taking a very thin filament of plastic. The filament's about 1.75 millimeters in diameter and shoots it through a nozzle that heats that filament up and then lays down that plastic in a pattern that is dictated by the software that we use to design the things. In this particular case, we're finishing up a print on a gondola. The gondola is going to be about 3 inches long, which would be about 12 feet in O scale. And it has braces on the side. The nice thing about it is with these printers, we can get a lot of detail. And I'm going to show you some additional pieces in a few minutes. There are essentially, I'm going to go back to me. There's essentially 2 basic types of 3D printers that are in the market today. There are many, many manufacturers, but the 2 types are the filament printer that I just showed you, which takes that string of or filament of plastic and melts it and lays it down. And the other one is called a resin printer. And the resin printer takes a vat of UV sensitive liquid and exposes that liquid to the UV light in a pattern. And then the piece that we're making actually comes out of that liquid. Now, one of the best ways I can explain it to you, if you've ever seen the movie Terminator, where the one really bad guy comes down and is made of a very meltable metal, and he melts down a couple of times and then all of a sudden kind of builds back up to his original shape. That's what it looks a lot like in the 3D printing world, especially in the resin printer. So we're actually building layer upon layer upon layer to get there. I'm going to show you a couple of the different things that I've had a chance to play with and make with the 3D printer. And once I realized that I could get away with making my own rolling stock, there's a lot of possibilities. This happens to be the equivalent of one of the Bachmann, I think it's 24 or 28 foot flat cars. And we were able to print a lot of the detail on the bottom. There's about 4 or 5 different pieces there. But on this particular piece, the only things that I had to buy were the wheels and the couplers. I also went in partners with touch toggle guy, Kevin Hunter, and we bought a small laser and we're able to print our own decks. And we're doing that like crazy right now. And if you can see, we can even print nail holes in there. This car is weighted down. There's a void between the bottom piece here and this outer shell. And there's a very thin tray of number 8 buckshot that's been glued in there, and that gives the weight to the car. So that's the longer car. Then this is a shorter version. This is equivalent to like the 18-footer. Now this one I put the brake wheels on, and it also has the undercarriage details. And then yet an even shorter version, and this is about the same length as that piece that I was just showing you on the printer. This is going to be about a 12-foot flat. It doesn't have any of the details underneath. I don't think I'm going to put details for these on these smaller cars, but we were able to add the brake wheels and some of the detail there, and I think that makes for a pretty nice model. The model that we have over there on the printer is equivalent to this one here. This we have not painted anything yet, but we have 2 different trucks on here. And again, we had to get the metal wheels. I also made a little tray that goes in the top. So if you want to put a load in there, you don't have to load the entire car up with that load. It will just be that top tray. Here's another version of a gondola. And again, it's just slightly different. This one doesn't have the braces on the sides. It just has the stakes. And then something that we're really happy with, and these I tried to show last time, I don't know how effective it was, but this is a water tender for that goes to a climax on my ON30 layout. We were able to duplicate the trucks on this by making those trucks and also the underside. And again, we added the wheels and the couplers. This has a top that comes off. So if a person wants to use this for a decoder, or if they want to use it for a battery for the dead rail guys, that'll work. Now, this is a rounded corner tender, and this is the square corner tender. This is the one that I really started with the flutes on the top to model the same type of finish that we have on the climax itself. There's just a ton of things that we can do with 3D printing. We had Larry Knapp on a couple of weeks ago, and Larry, of course, is doing a lot of World War I stuff. I printed some stuff for him, and this is one of the, I think this is a, well, I printed two for him. Printed a lorry, and this is a, does anybody know what the brand of that is?
Mac.
Anyway, it's a nice truck, and it's the right side. This all was printed as one piece on the underside, and then we printed the cab as another piece, and then there's a number of variations on the box that can go on the back. But it gives us the opportunity to make a lot of things without having to buy a lot of things. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. I told Jim in a conversation that we had, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, that I'll be happy to do a full-blown presentation on 3D printing that goes into a lot more detail about the technology that makes 3D printing work, including some of the software that you can use in order to design some of these pieces. But I think it's a great way for folks to get involved with the hobby if they're not into other aspects of the hobby. And I really believe that the technology like this is a way that we're going to pull a lot of the younger folks in. With the type of things, the touch toggles that is being done by Kevin Hunter and other folks that are doing 3D printing, it's a way that we can get the young people's interest back into the hobby. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions that anybody might have.
What kind of, are you selling any of these things?
We're just starting to think about that, Jim. We've sold a couple of the tenders, and we went to the Harrisburg show the last time, I guess it was in June, and we were feeling the waters. One of the big things is to try to find a price point that I like and that a customer would like. But I don't intend to go into a full-blown production. This will be kind of almost a custom type of thing.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How much for the truck?
I don't even know. I haven't priced it. I haven't priced it. I know that we're selling the, I had a friend that is much more of a salesman than I am and took these tenders, and he got $45 for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the same question of some folks up at Harrisburg, and they said it might be a little bit high. So really, it's going to be what the market will bear. Yeah.
Well, they're beautiful models. They really are. And, seeing that kind of a model compared to, what some of us older people used to do scratch building out of whatever we thought we could work with. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's night and day.
Well, the nice thing is with, if you can see the if I get some light on here, you can see all the rivets on the side and everything. You would think that it takes a lot of times to do that, but you only have to make one row of rivets and then you can duplicate it anywhere you want to. So it really cuts down the amount of time it takes to make these models. Mm. Granted, the software has a fairly steep learning curve, but once you get the basics down, everything else falls right out for you.
But the kids today, they're learning that stuff in grade school, it seems like.
I'll tell you, I take a couple of courses at the local community college here in Maryland. And I went into this about 3 years ago, and I had already bought my first 3D printer. And I went into the class and I thought, well, I got my 3D printer. I'm really going to be top dog. Well, I'll tell you, there was about 20-year-olds in there, and I was the absolute bottom dog. These kids really know what they're talking about.
Bob, which software do you use?
I'm using a product by Autodesk called Inventor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
and it's got a hefty price tag to it. But one of the reasons why I take a couple of courses at the community college is that if I can maintain my student status, then Autodesk will renew my license for the inventor every year for absolutely nothing. And it's like a $1,600 program. It's not cheap. But I use Inventor to do it. And I also use a program called Prusa Slicer to actually slice the software once you get the basic design. And I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but there's about 2 or 3 levels of software that you have to go through to go from concept to the final product, like this one over here.
Bob, Greg Cassidy,
Yeah, great.
I'd like to know what makes you decide when you can use the filament printer or when you have to use the resin printer?
Good question. If I want to get great detail, I will go to the resin printer. However, Prusa, the company that I have the printers from, just came out with a fairly new model. It's called the MK4, and it gives better detail, and also the nozzle size on it is smaller than the nozzle size on mine. So I'm going to be testing that over the next couple of months to see if I can get comparable quality with resin. The nice thing about resin is it's much quicker. On the filament printer, when you print, if it takes an hour to do one, it's going to take 6 hours to do 6. It's direct relationship. On the resin printer, is if it takes an hour to do one, it'll take an hour to do 6, or as many as you can put on the build plate. And that's the real beauty of the resin printer.
Yeah,
the resin
I can
printer
see
has
that.
a lot. Yeah, the resin printer has a lot of downsides, though. It has much more in the way of post and pre printing processing. I managed. I'm going to put the camera back here to me. I managed to put small blisters on my hands because I wasn't careful using gloves when I should have. Where on a filament printer, you take it off, and for instance, this one that I just took off, it's ready to go right now. No processing at all. So there's pros and cons to both.
All right, thank you.
Bob, when you talk about detail, can you give us an example between the two printers? What do you mean about the level of detail?
Okay, the printers that I have right now, the ones that I showed you, they have nozzles that squirt out the plastic, the melted plastic, and that nozzle is a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. There are other nozzles that can get down to 0.25. But normally I would say that a layer, when you start, and this piece that I made here is made up of many, many, many layers as it works its way up to completion. These layers are 0.2 millimeters thick. On the resin printer, they're 0.05 of a millimeter thick. So the fact that you're being able to get very, very small layers on there means that you can get detail and greater depth. So it's probably about, let's see what, maybe a 10 times improvement in detail as compared to one of these guys. Now, I use my filament printer for lots and lots of things. And as far as I'm concerned, because I model ON30 and I'm a firm believer in the 3-foot rule, is that if the detail isn't perfect, it's okay. But if I'm going to sell something, I'm probably going to go with my resin printer in order to get the very best quality product that I can get.
Gotcha.
I think there's another thing there that Bob, you should talk about, which is there's a 0.4 millimeter or 0.3 millimeter print head,
Right.
which means, so it's kind of like to think about the way to think about this is that a filament printer is like a tube of toothpaste, and you're squirting out toothpaste in a line, and then you're building it up layer on top of that line.
Right.
And so that's basically what it is. The thing that's happened with the resin printers is the resin printers basically use a screen that's light, and it projects up, and as it projects up through the liquid, it basically causes a very thin layer to congeal.
Right.
It doesn't congeal completely. It cures enough that it'll hold its shape.
Right.
So what happens then is the print bed pulls up a little bit and just pulls away, and that's that that's that very small 5/100ths of a millimeter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially it goes up that way, but the print bed itself is a screen. And so, you know, they started years ago when they first started building these where you could buy them for cost effective. They were basically screens that came from tablets because those were readily available or phones. And then they realized that a monochrome screen, a pure white screen, was a lot better. So they started building those. Now they're up in volume. I mean, there was one that one of them just built. It was an 8K printer. So you got to think about that. It's 8K wide this way on probably a 7 or 8 inch base. You know, that's 8,000 bits. So you look at how the width of each pixel essentially that congeals, it's 100th of what it is with a filament printer. So it's much smaller. And that's what's happening. What's happening with resin printing, and this is really, I think, exciting for us, you know, in the hobby, is that it is not a physical process. It's basically a process that's driven by electrical light generation. And so, you know, as the technology goes, you're going to see something that's going to be 16K. And so all of a sudden the resolution, not just this way, going up and down is much less, because the toothpaste tube, you can't get really close. So this way, and the resin's really close. Now this way, getting higher and higher resolution. So, you know, you can, in the scales we're doing, you can print things that are almost, you know, invisible from being the real thing. So I think Bob, you're absolutely right. When you start choosing the right thing, strength on one side, but the resolution is getting to be pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, and what I've found is that it's almost impossible to keep up with the technology, because I've only been in it for probably about maybe 4 years, and the technology is just leapfrogging ahead. So the filament printers have gotten much, much better. The resin printers, not only are the resins improving, but also the technology, like you're saying, that makes these things up, the UV light, the light sources, the way they're able to focus the light, everything. And one of the reasons why I'm hoping I can sell some of my product is that I can buy the better printers, but it's just going to take time. But it's great fun to do this. And there's nothing like making something and actually seeing it come to life in these printers. I mean, that's one of the great joys for me. Now, does it take time to design some of this stuff? Absolutely. Do I get it right the first time? Absolutely not. The rule of thumb is it takes me 7 prints in order to get the final print. But, you know, I'm retired. I can handle that.
Bob, when you started out, you talked about the learning curve.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that the learning curve is the CAD design part of this process.
Exactly. Exactly.
So for a guy like me who has absolutely zero knowledge of any of this, how long is my learning curve before I can at least make a print that is a reasonable approximation of what I'm trying to make?
Yeah, it depends. There's a lot of software sitting out there, some free, some not so free. Realistically, I think it probably could take a couple of years.
Okay.
With a lot of trial and error. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've made early on really wasn't trained stuff. I made a lot of tool holders. I made a lot of things like washers. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I never seem to have exactly what I need when I need it.
Yeah.
But instead of running to a hardware store now, if I need a washer a certain diameter, a certain thickness, I'll just print it. So a lot of that is all part of the learning curve. And the other thing too is, and I can thank Steve and a couple of other guys for this, is that when one is given a challenge to do something, like to create something they've never made before, every time you do something like that, you learn a new trick. And you just keep compiling those tricks in your book of tricks until you become fairly competent at doing it. I did we talked about John Weigel before. John asked me to make a coach roof for a longer and narrower coach than you would normally get out of Bachman. So getting those curves on the end of that roof right took me a couple of days. But the nice thing is, once we got it right, then we can make 100 of them.
Right. All right. Right.
But it does take time. It's not going to be an overnight process. And that's the reason why there are companies that will do it all the work for you, to tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob, let me ask you this. I keep hearing about this AI
Yeah.
and the impact AI is going to have on our lives in a lot of different ways. What impact is AI going to have on, say, 3D printing? Are we getting close to a point where, without having to spend 2 years of time to do something, I can show a computer a picture of what I want to print and say, AI, design it and put it on the printer for me?
Yeah, I think it could get there. But I don't know exactly what that impact is going to be. For instance, one of the things that I'd really like to be able to get to eventually would be able to create my own figures, my own people. That is not and I found out that I don't have that skill set right now to start from scratch and model a human figure. There's a lot of people that are very, very good at it. But you can get a scanner, and people have done this already, is scan a body, and then take that scanned information and shove that into the computer, and you wind up getting a human being, a model of a human being. Matter of fact, what's Steve, you probably know, what is it, Les Davis?
Les Davis, yes.
Yeah, Les did that with a number of his friends, and he actually dressed them in period clothing.
Yeah.
And very nice models. I asked Les if he would sell me some of his files, and he said absolutely not. And I understand that. But yeah, I think AI will be there. But Jim, if you ask me what is going to be the ultimate, I can't give you an answer. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Well, I'm looking forward when you kind of come back on the show and do this more in depth. I really am. And I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do it.
No, that's okay. I love this stuff. And if anybody has any questions, my email is geldy, GELDY @AOL.com. I'll be happy to chat for as long as you want to talk, or give me a call. But thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on tonight, Bob.
My pleasure.
It.
So are you a 3D printer, Steve?
I'm not a 3D printer. Nope. I don't have one. Listen, I was lucky that Bob came along with 3D printing and he got the education necessary to produce these things. I have challenged him quite a few times with some of this, and he has come through. I have, 50 cars here that he's produced for me. And it's just been a wonderful experience to watch this whole development. When you go over to his house, he's got the printers in one room, he's got the tools in another room, he's got a computer in the room. All these are separate areas. But if you want a design of something standard, he has the file and he'll put it up, print it, say, all right, it'll be ready in 8 minutes, 45 minutes or whatever. It's almost like magic, from compared to when we were, first started out in this stuff where the plastic was 1/4 of an inch thick and you had no details hardly at all. And it was just, man, this is just so neat. I can't get over how wonderful it is to see this stuff. And when you're changing ideas as far as the location of your railroad and what type of railroading you're going to do, it just makes it so much easier for the transition. When I sold all my standard ON30 cars and went to the kit bash items and the 2 axles and things like this, it just made it so much easier. I had a method. I was cutting trucks in half and putting beams on it. And Bob came over one day and he said, let me see that. He said, I can make one piece that'll go on that. And so he did. And he put rivets on it and everything. And I said, well, I wasn't planning on that. He kind of upgraded the modeling on the railroad. And it just makes it really wonderful to have somebody like him as a friend. And this is just one of the things that you when you meet other model railroaders, doesn't matter what scale they are really, you just feel like, you've known them for a long time and you just share your ideas. And once in a while they come over to ON30 and we're real happy to have them.
Jim, I'll mention one thing. You talked about AI. The programs that I use have a modeling technique called parametric modeling. And the best example is a window. And you could take a window and say that you're going to design a window around the opening that window is going to fit into. And then all the other dimensions of that window are all based on that window opening. And once you've done that, then you can say, if I want to change that window opening, everything else is done automatically for you. So that's one of the reasons why I probably will never buy another Tishy window, because I make all my own. And the same thing with doors. I'll never be in competition with him, but I don't have to buy from him. But he does make nice products, so.
What is so hard about doing figures?
They're not real linear. Okay, I'm a linear thinker. And so for me to do things that have straight lines, it's easy. But for me to take basically a piece of clay and mold a body that looks like a body, I don't have that skill right now. And that's basically the same type of skill that you need to make a figure in 3D. You can get a file that gets you started with that figure, but then you got to push and pull and do all kinds of things to make that figure look like somebody you would see on a railroad. And I haven't spent that much time trying to do it, but the times that I have done it, I've walked away and said, I'm going to stick with my straight line stuff. So, but I really would like to do that because, if you put 200 or 300 figures on a railroad, you spent a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely.
You spent
Jim,
a lot of money.
I think the other issue is there's discussion about the scanning. I think this quality of the scanners, you can buy a scanner on Amazon for $1,000, that kind of number. I think the quality of the scan you get may not be good enough to use in a lot of, model railroad when you get to O scale where, in O scale, you got to think about it, a 6-foot figure is an inch and a quarter, an inch and a half tall. So,
right.
And at that point, when you get in close, especially for photo, things are visible. And so you get defects where, it doesn't read right and something sticks out. And so you have to go in and edit all that. So, I think if you have a really, really good scanner, I think the really good scanners, you're more in the $3,000 or $4,000 or more range.
Multiply
I don't know.
that, multiply
Or even
that
more.
by 5. Multiply that
Or
by 5.
20,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I really started doing a lot of this work at our local library in Westminster, Maryland. And that's how I got into, playing with the laser. But they also have a scanner up there. It's a $20,000 scanner. And even then, the guy told me when we went to the class on the scanner is that there's still a lot of post-production that you have to do in order to get the final figure looking like a person, because there are voids that the scan doesn't pick up. But I agree with you. It's all a matter of the quality of the scanner to get your person.
Yeah.
Just cut back on the number of people.
Anybody have any more questions for Bob or for Steve?
Lose the population. I mean, that's what I do. I got a whole drawer full of people.
It's not a question, but I had myself scanned last year, and you were talking about voids. It was done by Bernard at Mini Prints, and one of the things he had me do was remove my glasses. He said the scanner does not pick up glasses, so all the little mini me's that I have, I'm not wearing glasses.
Yeah.
I asked him if he could take care of my pot belly. He didn't do a damn thing.
But you can do that. You can do that. Okay. Yep. That's push and pull.
Yeah.
Wait. So Greg, are you
have to scratch build your glasses, Greg?
Maybe Bob can print those glasses for you.
Slip them on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I have a little version of me standing in front of the bar on my layout.
It won't make any difference because you're still all going to look ugly.
I see Clark's back with us.
That's right, baby.
Thank you.
Oh, God. Wow.
Phil, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say exactly the same thing, that you have to make glasses now. That was, otherwise you're not prototypically correct, and someone will comment on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm coming out of a bar. I could have lost him.
Well, Bob, Steve, thank you so much for this evening. We really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Bob, I look forward to seeing you later.
Okay.
Well, I think it's time for our door prize. Phil, if you're ready. And as I say, the winner has to be present to win. So when your name is announced, if you'll make yourself known, and then you'll need to send me your email address so that I can contact you, and I'll need, the mailing address for the gifts and that kind of thing.
Okay, I guess it's over to me. I'm spinning the wheel here. And what I got is 3 down and 4 across. And so I've used, by the way, what I do is I spin this in random numbers in a spreadsheet, and it gives them out to me. And then I look at you guys all in the gallery view. And so 2 down and 4 across this is a pretty amazing thing. It's Bob Geldmacher. So Bob, you get to build some HO buildings.
That's wonderful. But since I'm an ON30 modeler.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll be happy to pass that along. But
okay, you want me to? I'll do it again then.
Draw another one.
Let me spin it again.
but I never win anything, so that's good.
Well, you're consistent, Bob. You didn't win this either.
Well, maybe I'll be lucky and win the Mega Millions tonight then.
we got 3 down and 3 across, and that's Edward O'Rourke.
There you are.
Edward, a London T-shirt, absolutely. So Edward, yes, you're I'm going to unmute you there, and I'll go ahead and throw this back into the speaker view. So congratulations.
Thank you. All right.
How do you spell your last name, Edward?
O''Rourke.
And Phil, if you could put my email in the chat.
I will do that.
Edward, if you will send me a mailing address and a telephone number.
Okay.
By email, then I will send that to Walthers, and they will be in contact with you to deliver the kits.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
And I'll mention that Ed is the president of our NMRA division or region.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yep.
My God. This is like old home week for you guys.
Wow.
Well, I'll be darned.
What region or division?
Northeastern.
Well, can't have everybody.
Nice to have you back, Clark.
Thanks, Bob.
That fishing boat didn't sink either, did it?
No, but I'm lucky to be here actually, but I'll leave that for a little later.
Oh my God, I can't believe Clark came back. How long has it been since you went fishing? My God, it seems like years.
About a year and a bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome back. We're glad to have you.
Well, I will tell you a little story when we get a lull, so.
All right. All right, so now guys, now that we have gotten that over with, and Edward, I appreciate you being here this evening, and congratulations on the kit. And I think you're really going to enjoy watching Gary make this plastic kit look like it was made out of wood. And when he did it before, I just couldn't believe it because I've never built a plastic kit myself. And watching him put together this other kit and then have it come out to where it looked like a wood kit, I couldn't believe it.
I will tell you that Bob Davidson recruited me here at one of our meetings, so I've been dropping in here when I can. Bob's in our Central New York division as well. I'm trying to get a few of the other guys to try it too, but they haven't, they're reluctant, I guess, or busy or something.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you and appreciate you coming. And you ought to talk to Phil because he's always looking for people from the divisions and regions for the clubs and division segment that we do. We're really interested in trying to find things that are working for different clubs and divisions and regions around the country to see if other clubs might be able to do the same kind of things and benefit from them. And frankly, things that clubs and so forth have tried that maybe it bombed out and, maybe they're not worth trying for somebody else. So that's the purpose of it. And the other purpose is trying to make sure that the local modelers know that the local club or division is where they can get some real great mentoring and meet some great modelers. So with that said, I think we're ready for our caboose. Phil? And just think, before tomorrow morning, somebody out there will have made that in a 3D print, and it'll be absolutely a standing model. So thank you all so much for being here this evening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, we hope you learned something. So till next time, happy